Hey everybody, good morning. Good morning, welcome to day 82 for spiritual healthcare. It is good to see everybody coming in today. We've got a rainy, cloudy day here in Edmonton, so I don't know what's going on. All our good weather seems to have just, disappeared. I don't know. but the rain is good. I love the rain, so it's all awesome. And I mean, we don't usually get rain here in Edmonton very much, so it's always kind of nice to have a rainy day every once in a while, and it keeps the forest fires down, so that's all good. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Patricia and Des and everybody that's logging in. Hey, everyone. It's good to see you guys. Good morning, Kaz. Nice to see you. It's so awesome just to see everybody every morning. Good morning, Lori and Sally. Everybody coming in. It's just, this is awesome. This is awesome. I've got like a really fun kind of topic today because I've been asked a lot of questions over the last little while. Where is it? There it is. Been asked a lot of questions over the last little while about my book, Teaching the Living. And some really good questions kind of popped up and came in, and I thought I'd kind of combine them together. But there's some really great ones in here, and I thought it would be cool to be able to share it with you guys also. Good morning, Dan. Nice to see you. Good morning, everyone. It is a rainy day here. I don't know what is going on with the weather. We had a really hot day over the last the last few days have been pretty hot here, and whatnot. I hope you guys caught the fire video that I posted yesterday about holding space. It's on the EntitySeeker Facebook page. It will be on the EntitySeeker website as well at some point. I haven't uploaded them yet, but I hope you guys got something out of them. And I love using fire as a demonstration because you really get to see how this stuff works in physical reality and how it applies. So for those of you guys who missed yesterday's fire video, basically what it was about the idea that being able to allow for something to happen rather than forcing something to happen is really key. And I used fire and what they call vapor tricks to basically explain and demonstrate, how holding the space for the vapor can create the fire and ignite and all that. And it was pretty cool. So good morning, Ed. Good morning, Brandy. Good morning, Shadow. Good morning, everybody. It's good to see everyone this morning. Lots to talk about today. I've thought a lot about this class in general because I thought, I think there's some insights in some of the questions that I've been getting about teaching the living that I wanted to share with you guys, because I think it's going to be really worth the discussion and talking about and whatnot on this Wednesday. I hope you guys had a really good Tuesday. As I say, my Tuesday was good. It was good. I spent all day basically in fire practice and fire rehearsal. I'm learning these two new props, these two new torches. So it was 4 or 5 hours of repetitive fire work over and over and over and over again. And that's really what a lot of this stuff is. I have so many people, they ask me, they're like, how did you get into doing fire and fire breathing and fire eating and all of that kind of thing. And I do staff as well. And honestly, it's funny because it was an art that I thought was so empowering. It was so brilliantly empowering. And my first teacher, who was amazing, a fellow by the name of Will Phoenix, taught me fire breathing. I started with that. And and staff, and I started to work with that, and I thought, okay, it's either go big or go home. And there was really no bridge between practicing with water, for instance, because you always start fire breathing practice with water, with new tricks and learning how to properly spray the fuel and all of that kind of thing. It all starts with water, and then at some point you just kind of get pushed over the edge to okay, here you go. Here's the fuel, go for it. And there's not really a middle ground. It's either you're using water or you're using fuel. And it's really the only way to learn. And it got me thinking as well, that when as we're moving through our experiences in this world, so many people we get really stuck in our comfortable places, right? We get really stuck in, if it doesn't feel completely good or completely comfortable, then I'm not going to do it. We kind of get that in our head. And you know, when I was doing fire yesterday, and I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about how I got started in it, and I was talking to my partner, because we were going back and forth, and I was sending him the videos of my fire practice, and you know, and I was thinking about that, and I thought, you know, it's kind of like an eagle in a nest, right? Like, and these eagles, I don't know if any of you guys have seen any of the nature shows on eagles. It's really wild. Basically what they do, it's the eagle parenting 101. What they do is they take their eagle baby, their little chick, and they basically take it to a cliff. Like, the nests sit on the cliffs, and they take it sort of to the edge of the cliff, and they like shove the eaglet off the cliff. Like, it's insane. It's insane. They just shove it off the cliff, and the eagle's like, you know, is flapping, and it's doing its thing and whatever, and it finally anyway, it ends up getting its wings underneath of it, and starts flying, right? But it's interesting that some of our greatest miracles come from our scary places. It's interesting. And when we start to look back on, you know, some of the things that, you know, we've done over the years or whatever, you can probably see it in your own experience, right? Oh, good morning to Burton and Deb and Richard and Jay. Nice to see you, Richard. But you know, our greatest miracles oftentimes come from our scary places. It's very interesting. You know, it takes guts to be able to take that next leap into whatever it is that you're going to be doing. And sometimes it's regarding the paranormal stuff, you know, sometimes it's regarding a place that you want to go, or an area that is frightened you and you want to understand it with curiosity rather than fear. You know, whatever that is for you. And of course, right now in the world, we've got all of this stuff going on, which is generating high levels of fear and anxiety. But I think we really do have to take a step back and realize that, you know, our greatest miracles really do usually come from our scariest places. And when we think about, you know, I think about things like my fire practice and stuff like that. You know, I was that eaglet, you know, and my teacher was basically like, yeah, here's the fuel, you know what to do, apply what you've learned, and, you know, create a massive fireball. and I did. And in the first one, and after I did the first couple of breaths, I realized just how, how empowering it was to be able to see myself be able to interact with this unbelievably creative element, and see this and see this happen. You know, if we look at people like the Wright brothers, for instance, right? You know, they had the balls to look up in the sky, and they saw the birds up there, and they saw they saw the animals up there, and they said, you know, I belong up there. That takes some serious balls right there, to be like, I belong up there. And when we look at things like, you know, the goals and the dreams and what we're looking for and what we're looking to reach, you know, all of those things even like business is just a machine that you build to reach that dream. So whatever you're doing, whatever you're putting energy into, whatever you're building is the machine to get you to where you want to be. It's not the dream itself. It's the machine. So if you're investing in this stuff that you know doesn't work out, or it's like an area of investigation, or it's a job, or it's whatever it is that's not working out, that's fine, because it's just all you're doing is just building the vehicle to get you to where you want to be. You know, it's funny because over the last number of months here, of course, we've been in isolation, we've been in quarantine, we've been in lockdown, we've been there's been a million words for it. But I think what people don't realize is that greatness sometimes it festers in things like frustration. Every single good leader, every great leader that we've had has been tested by some sort of pain going forward. They have. And when we start to get too much into our own heads about things, we have to sort of take a step back and realize that sometimes knowing too much stops us from being our best self. It just does. If everything creation and innovation and discovery and faith, all of that creativity comes from uncertainty. It comes from the unknown. This is the reason why I love the paranormal so much, is that it comes from it really does. All of those things fester creativity. And that's one of the reasons why we know the things we know about the world. Is one of the reasons why the paranormal is so important, and why we have to ask questions, why we have to be curious about it. Things like faith and creativity functions best when we don't know. It just does. It just functions best when we just don't know what's going on. And so often we get put in situations that destabilize us. And that's what the paranormal does. It destabilizes us. It makes us start to question. It makes us start to ask things about our environments, about our world. It makes us realize we don't know everything. And that's, we were talking yesterday about the idea that, when we're taking a leap of faith does not come from the platform of intellect, right? It just can't. It just doesn't. As soon as we get our heads in there, sometimes it jumbles everything up, because the process isn't always clear. It's not always clear as to what's going to happen. We don't always know. So that leap of faith can't come from the platform of intellect. It doesn't work. And as I say, oftentimes what happens is that things will happen to destabilize us, so that we get put in these situations, and we have to be able to either take that leap of faith, and we have to be able to start to invest in the unknown, rather than sitting there basing everything off of what we think we know. Because what we think we know is usually either a story, or it's a coming through a bad filter, or whichever. But as I say, knowing too much sometimes stops you from being your best self. Because if you know it all, if you think you know your world and whatnot, your creativity, your expansion, your innovation, your want for discovery of new things, it stops. It stops cold every single time. It's really amazing. Brandy was saying, she comes back to the saying that the more I know, the more I realize I don't know. Yeah, it's true, and we have to be able, especially in today's world, to be able to get used to saying things like, this is new information for me. I can change my mind, or I have to change my mind. I didn't know this. We have to be able to be open to saying that, because at this point we are moving at such an incredibly fast pace right now, where the world in various areas, has just said we're not thinking this way anymore. And anybody that is stuck in some of these old ways of thinking is getting just trodden on and left behind, and they're just being told you are not allowed to do that anymore. We're moving on. We're moving forward. We're coming into this new state of awareness. And we have to be able to take that all into account and into consideration in moving forward in our own paradigms and beliefs. And I think as we're going through this, we really got to think hard about what it is that we are allowing space for. We see this in paranormal stuff all the time, where there are advancements in the field, especially in the academic side of things. That explode all the time. Like just in the last couple of years, there's a brilliant researcher, Dr. Christine Simmons-Moore, and she has put together some unbelievable, life-changing information about things like hypnagogic and hypnopompic hallucinations, which are the hypnagogic hallucinations are what's going on when you go into sleep. Hypnopompic is what's going on when you come out of sleep. But it's a state of the brain where we start to we're half asleep, but we're seeing stuff. And it was always written off at that point in time as hallucination. Well, every single time it was just like, oh yeah, no, that's in your head. You're dreaming, you're sleeping, you're kind of half in and out. And what they've discovered recently is the fact that it can't be labeled that way. That a lot of things like, things that we normally would have labeled as dreams or mental illness or things like that have to be re-evaluated and re-examined, because it might not be the way people have labeled it in the medical field in the past. Things are massively changing, and now we look at the world when in terms of the controversies and stuff like that are going on right now. There are things that are being brought to the table, and whether it be politics or racism or a combination of them, or whatever it is, advances in the knowledge about COVID-19, all of these different things, we have to be able to keep up with that. And if we are not being that eagle and we're not flapping, we got a problem. We got a problem. We're supposed to keep up with this stuff. So I wanted to kind of bring this into the light a little bit today, because light is it's so interesting. And when we think about light, we think about, the era of enlightenment with Whitman and Emerson and all of these different, these different names and people over the years. But light is interesting because it's quantifiable, right? Light and sound and, all of these different energies in the world, it's all quantifiable. It's measurable. We can turn around and say, that's a decibel level, or, we can measure quanta, light quanta. We can, all of these different things. And what's interesting is that with darkness, nothing comes at the speed of darkness. Nothing comes at the speed of darkness. Darkness is not, it's not really, you can, I guess you can measure the degree of darkness, but there's no motion in it, right? There's no motion. Darkness really doesn't have any power. Darkness is just absence. Just absence. It's absence of light. It's absence of, whatever it is. And we have to start being able to realize that in order to move with this flow that is currently happening, we have to be able to realize that this is in motion. Be still long enough. Be still long enough so that you can get into the motion and the momentum of what's, of what's coming into your experience. So I had some really cool questions come in about teaching the living. The book that I wrote a few years ago. And I thought this was really cool because it got me thinking about all of what I just talked about. There's some really, really, really great questions about it. One of them being, what real life, science, pseudoscience, history, religion, or other mythologies did you research for the paranormal aspect of teaching the living? Because teaching the living is not just about paranormal stuff. It's about like people and legacies and how they manifest some of the crazy in their experience, and some of it comes out as the paranormal. But I thought this was really cool because what I just talked about, things like, it was researching things that you probably didn't even think about. Things, as I say, like, the eagle falling out of the nest, and, going deep into the fire arts and understanding what it takes, what is it in that leap of faith, what brings you to that moment, that makes you want to, step into the paranormal, step into the world of the unknown. So as much as I, went back on Greek mythology and, characters like Plato and Homer, and, delved deep into the statistical analysis and oh my God, all sorts of crazy things. Everybody from, we'll talk to people all over the place. Went back into my own history with A.D. Watson. But I was paying attention not only during the writing of this book, but throughout my career, paying attention to the people who have tackled the unknown with a very different set of expectations and circumstances, and what their experiences have been over the years. Because that's been the big thing is, okay, how is it that people are interacting with the unknown, with uncertainty, in these various areas, and coming out with different results, whether it be within the paranormal field and whether it be within their own life, because I found it was very, very much tied in and one and the same. The results that people were getting within the paranormal were very much what they were getting within their everyday experience. So there was plenty of religion and history and mythology and all of that to delve into, but where the lessons were really coming from were in how those people approached the outlook of the unknown and the outlook of uncertainty. What were the attitudes they had going into it? Were they willing to take the leap of faith? And if they didn't know everything, they couldn't see it, they didn't know the how, they just, they didn't know the how. Were they willing to still take the leap of faith and take it off of something other than intellect? Because they had to, at some point, all of these people, here's the thing, all of these people had to put intellect down. Every one of them. I did. I had to, 100%. Because there's just times where you get going in your life experience and you can't figure it out. You're not given all the information. And that's on purpose. Like, you're not given all that info. And, people they'll get stuck. They'll start sitting there and going, well, I gotta wait for the information. No, you don't. You don't gotta wait for the information. Because let me tell you, you might not get it. Like, you might not get that info. at some point you've got to start understanding that this is, we get put in stuff like this in order to destabilize us, in order to be able to test out our wings, because let me tell you, that eagle that gets like shoved out of that nest, they got no clue. They got no clue they can freaking fly. They have no idea. They've watched their parents do it a couple times, or they've, maybe they're aware enough to see other birds, flying around or whatever, but it's like, they don't know. They've got no clue, but they've got to stop they have to put the intellect down, and lo and behold, they're getting shoved out of that nest anyway. It's really, really interesting. You really don't know, but you have to at some point be able to take that step off of where you are and move into this. So I thought that was really cool. The other question that came in that I thought was really interesting was what was your favorite chapter or part to write, and why? So with Teaching the Living, I think one of my favorite parts, there was two parts, I think. The first one was one of the last chapters. And I think this chapter was profound for me because as we start to culminate all of the things that we're living and seeing right now. The last chapter, by the way, is called At the End of Seeking All Is Consciousness. Okay, so it's chapter 11. And I think the importance for me about that is that it really caused me to take a step back and to wrap my head around what it was and what the reason is for doing what we're doing. This is the thing, is that when it comes to the paranormal, you always have got to have a vision. You always got to have a vision. You've always got to be able to look forward, and this applies to pretty much everything in your experience. But specifically, I think with things like the paranormal, because if you don't set your intention with it, then you get kind of dragged off into all sorts of directions. It'll mess you up. You'll get dragged off into God knows what. But when we start to look at things like a consciousness, when we start to want more out of the experience than just, a jump scare or something that's, oh my God, I caught an EVP, whatever, that's cool and it's interesting. But at the end of the day, what you're going to burn out from that. That's going to burn you out. If you got that sort of short vision, you're going to get bored with this stuff really quick. I've had a number of investigators or past investigators that have come to me and said, I don't do this anymore. So, well, why is that? And they turn around and say, well, I just felt like after a while I was doing the same thing over and over and over again. I was catching the same types of evidence, catching the same, photographs and this, that, and the other thing. And I'm bored. I'm burned out. I'm bored. And that's the thing, is that when you've got a long vision, when you're pulling lessons from what it is that you're doing, then you don't have that same level of boredom and burnout. You don't run out of energy for it, because you might have your hard days. You might have your hard days where you just don't want to get up and do nothing. Because that's a real thing, especially in this business. But at the end of the day, it's like when you're pulling lessons from this stuff, you start to treat things different. You treat your mornings different. You start to see a longer goal, because you're not looking at that EVP that you're catching today, or you're not worried about whether or not you're catching one at all, or that photograph, or that so you can go through 800 photographs and it doesn't matter, because if it's not there, it's not the point. And the last chapter of Teaching the Living made me understand and pull together, okay, well, why are you doing it? Why are you doing it? And at the end of Seeking All Is Consciousness, that's it. It is about being connected with that greater part of who you are. That's it. And I think it's something that we all have to look at as we're moving forward. We've got businesses now that are opening back up, right? We've got like Alberta now is on phase 2 and part of phase 3 of the reopen. and whatever. I know Ontario is still kind of back in phase 1. We've got people are just all over the place, when all the different provinces are at different points. And the U.S. is in the same boat. So, but as long as we start to take a look at the point, if we start to look at these sort of short-term goals, short-term, interpretations of what's happening, that's where people are getting caught up and they're getting stuck. I think it's interesting to me, the people that are out there protesting and they have their signs out saying, I need a haircut. I find that it's really intriguing, because to me, what my interpretation of that is that they've missed the point. So not only is it, it's a bad idea when you're in the middle of a pandemic to be demanding haircuts, but at the same time, it's interesting to me that that this has that they've kind of missed the point. There's no long vision, right? There's no long. That's literally the most important thing to them in this moment is that haircut. It's very interesting. Arnold's saying, it's in my Marilyn Manson shirt. Yes, it is. So, this was from his last tour. Actually, I was so fortunate enough to see him at Rogers Arena in Vancouver. It was fantastic, and I have been so blessed over my 36 years to sit in the room with some of the most amazing people, in my opinion, some of the most amazing people on the planet, some of the most inspiring people on the planet. Marilyn Manson, Manson was definitely one of them. He, incredible human being, and filled the space when I met him, talking about people with long vision. What a master teacher he is, and he's so interesting to be in the room with. And if any of you guys have ever met him, it's quite the experience, because he fills the space with an incredible level of peace, and he has got a very deep sense of knowing, and really owns the environment and the experience that he's having. He is so present. And when I got to sit down and talk with him and meet him, it wasn't a long meeting at all, but what I found so awesome about it was the fact that his ability to be in the moment, despite the fact that he had a billion things going on around him. He had, a bunch of people, of course, that, were, waiting to talk to him. He had just gotten done with a show. He had of course, there's a million things going on with him. He's got a million fingers in the pie, like every freaking pie you can imagine, like arts and painting and acting and music and like studio stuff. And he's just got a million things going on. And what struck me most about him was the fact that his ability to be present with everybody that was speaking with him, and to meet you in the moment. And I'll tell you guys a brief story about this, because this was really cool. So when I knew I was gonna be able to talk with him, I had like a million things in my head as to what I wanted to say, because I followed him for decades, and it's his journey, both personal and professional, and had a million things I wanted to say to him. And when I walked into the room, it was like you humbled up so fast, because you realized, and this was just with his energy alone, you realized that you were in the presence of a teacher, and you're in the presence of somebody who you would have been wise to just shut up and listen. Dr. Phil always says, never miss a good chance to shut up. This was that moment, okay? And and I realized, I said, okay, I've got this like minimal amount of time. What is it that I want to say? If I cut through all the crap, what is it that I want to say? How do I want to be in this space? And I realized the only words were thank you. The only words were thank you. And it was such a cool moment, because I didn't even have, I told him, I said, look, I said, I'm not even here for an autograph. I said, I don't care if you sign anything. I said, I'm not, I said, the only thing that I wanted to be able to convey to you was to say thank you for what you've done, and your presence in helping bullied kids, and what you've done for things like Make-A-Wish, and how you've used your platform and your life to change worlds. And I said, I said that's it. That's the only, that's the only reason that I'm here. And he was, and he took my hand, and he said, and and he was, it was a great moment of connection. And the photos that came out of it were amazing as well. I'll post those up for you guys so you can see them. But it was really cool. It was like, I don't know how many times he's heard that. I hope he's heard that plenty. But it does. It makes you, again, take the leap of faith. Don't use intellect. It's like, intellect has a place. It's a tool, but there are times when you've got to be able to sort of put that aside, put that down, and take the leap of faith, or else you just don't grow. Intellect's important, but it's a tool. So, everybody, now, take a deep breath, because we got to do our peace affirmations for the morning. It's like 10:30. So it's like 10:30 here. Okay, so everybody take a breath. I'm a channel of peace and well-being, and my need for peace is abundantly met. I unconditionally accept love and appreciate myself for who I am. I recognize and am grateful for the abundance that is constantly flowing into my life, which I can choose to allow or not. I feel with every breath a sense of peace and love. I help others by maintaining and tending to the connection with Source as much as possible. This well-being is accessible to me, even in a sea of uncertainty. At this moment, all is well. I am able to liberate myself from my past with peace and serenity. I can see and appreciate all the beauty and abundance in the life around me. I am able to embrace love while letting go of fear. And I find peace with the soothing silence of my inner being. Everybody take a breath. Thank you guys for an amazing morning. Our day 82, you guys, spiritual healthcare is crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. It's day 82. That's nuts. But tomorrow morning we'll be back again as well, for all of this. And there's so much more to talk about. There's so much more. And thank you guys so much for coming every single day, and when you can, and catching up on the YouTube, on the YouTube classes and all sorts of things like that. And I just thank you so much for everything you guys are doing, and your support, and your messages are just incredible and amazing, and they make my day. And even mornings when I'm super tired and, not even sure what we're going to chat about in the morning, and I read the messages from you guys, and it's like, holy crap, like it blows my mind. You guys give me the motivation to keep doing this. So thank you so much. And I will see you guys tomorrow morning on Spiritual Healthcare, y'all. Bye.